It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Connecticut College head selling coach, Coach Jeff Bresnaham. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you today? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching and college selling?
Well, it's funny. I'm an inner city kid that, learned how to sail for $1 up in Boston at community boating. And, I always used it as a summer activity. And, both my parents worked and I'm the youngest of four, heavy into sports. All of us played sports. I played, football, baseball, and then I came down here to Southern Connecticut to, play football in college, still sailing the whole time. And, just one thing led to another. And I had some opportunities to jump on the U.S. team, and did Olympic campaign from 88 to 92, had some success. And then Con hired me when I was 23. Along the way, I kind of always had that kind of feeling. I had some really good coaches along the way in all sports. And I know I kind of saw it. I always was told, gee, you can't make a career out of that. That's not good. And what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, we'll just keep on doing it. So Connecticut College hired me when I was 23 years old. I actually interviewed from the U.S. Olympic compound in Barcelona, and flew home to Boston, packed a couple bags, and moved down here. And 32 years later, I'm still here.
Of course, what was that like getting to compete in sailing and go to the Olympic trials?
Yeah, the Olympic trials was, was something that was pretty intense. And, when you play field sports, I went to an all boys school in Boston, Malden Catholic, and, every day from gym class to football, it was very competitive. And, you're always looking for something to extend your athletic competition. And sailing was that. It fit the bill. We were a tight group. We went all over the world. There were 5 boats on the team in the star class at that time from the US. And, we were all end up friends. About halfway through the campaign, we actually all switched partners. John McCausland and I really kind of thrived at that point and really pushed Mark Reynolds and Hal Hanel, who won the gold. But competing at that level was really good, especially, being an inner city kid that really didn't know much outside of Boston. And all of a sudden, we're meeting other people like us from all over the world, that want to compete at a high level.
While being a professional athlete, what was that like getting to travel all around the world and getting to see the world?
Yeah, it's funny. I was the young guy at the time. So I was, 21 through 23 or, 20 through 23. And I kind of felt like I look back at that now and I thought it was great, right? I would go over early and I would get all the boats ready and I would move all the gear. And I'm like, oh, I look at it now and I'm like, oh, I was just doing everybody's job. But it was a lot of fun. And, I still, lifelong friendships and, it really did set me up. I mean, a lot of those, my teammates were 8-10 years older than me. And I kind of feel like they set me up for success of just how we ran the team, how we kind of the things we did. And, when I got here at Connecticut College at 23, there were 2 other athletes on the team that were my age, Carolyn Ulander and Carl Ziegler, who also were on the US team in different boats. I knew them, but I didn't really know them. And then all of a sudden, they're seniors and I'm here coaching and I thought they were a big help, but just the structure of that really allowed me to jump off and really design, I was their, Con's first full-time coach and really wanted to make a movement and really having an apartment on campus and being able to just think about it every single day and really design and make mistakes. And I apologize to all the athletes back then if I made too many mistakes, but hopefully they still come to our alumni events.
Of course, when you got started in Connecticut, what was that experience like, as you said, being young and being so close in age with the athletes?
Yeah, it was just something that, it's kind of followed me through my whole career in the sense that we've always had something like that, whether it's athletes too, very close to my age, or me being very young, currently on the team, 32 years later, my son is a junior on the team. It's always a dimension, I always feel like we're always like adding something else to, the stress and the competitiveness of our team. But, you approach every day with honesty and, I'm here to help. And I always look at that way. I look at it that way is that, if you want to come and sail every single day, I mean, I can help you. I can guide you through, going to school here at Con, but ultimately, we're all a team and I have a job to do. You have a job to do and we keep it that way. And at the end of the day, just everybody take your hats off and have dinner together.
Of course, becoming the Connecticut coach, what was that experience like going to Salem State and getting to coach
At Salem State, yeah. So Salem State, it's funny that, I'd left Southern Connecticut. I moved back up north and Joe Duplin at the time, who a lot of us, he was our mentor. He was the one that really got me in the Starboats, but he was coaching there at the time. And he was a world champion in Starboat. And, I was there for probably a semester and a half before I kind of moved on to sailing the Starboat. And at the time, Bill Healy, who is the associate head coach at Yale, and Bob Adams, who is the, he's one of the high ups at our boat manufacturers. They were there So it's just so funny that the three of us crossed paths there with Joe, and then we all stayed in the industry. But that was an awakening of like how hard you had to work, when your boss is 30 years older than you and he's a world champion, and anything he says, you have nothing to retort, right? It's just like, okay, this is what we're doing. So I really think that really helped me, jumping into and doing Olympic campaign, and then also, coming here to Connecticut College.
Of course, as you previously talked about it, what was that experience like getting to coach your son who's on the team?
Yeah, we're still going through it. I think that both of my kids, Charlie, who's here, and Molly Bresnaham, who's playing lacrosse up at Western Connecticut in Danbury. I think with our travel schedule, sailing is a 2-season sport, so we travel every weekend in the fall and we travel every weekend in the spring. When they were younger, and even still now, we run a camp over on Shelter Island, New York for sailing. But in the winter, I was able to, coach them in basketball. I was their basketball coach, and, always kind of jumping in and helping and whatever I could do on my downtime to be with them. So, Charlie on the team, to me and him, it's something we do, and, it's athlete coach. And, I really am appreciative of all of his teammates and my assistant coaches that, that look at that way. Like Charlie and I look at it as we are, not father and son when we're here. We take that on our downtime. But when we're here, he's an athlete, and, I think it works well.
Of course, can you talk about the culture that you've started to build for the selling program?
Yeah, I think that, Con's a small school, small liberal arts NESCAC school, and there are 3 other varsity programs in the NESCAC. Obviously the NESCAC is very high rated in all sports in Division III in the country, and Bowdoin, Con, and Tufts are all competing at a very high level in college sailing. And I think the one thing that we really try hard to do here, even though we're out competing against teams that are far outmanned, have better recruiting tools, have more coaches. And I think for us is really trying to fit the model of a NESCAC team and fitting into the athletic department here, and realize that, it's a privilege that the school sponsors us and really lets us do what we want to do. And I think it's our job to make sure that we represent Con very well and the NESCAC very well. And the culture is just, we really try to make it so that it's academics over athletics, and you're coming here, and my job, and my assistant coach, Emily Blinderman, our job is to make it so the athletes can walk out of class, we get the most out of them with the least amount of time, and, make them progress. I think the one thing we also do here is we really, between the 2 teams, between the co-ed team and the women's team, we really keep the roster small so that we can maximize the amount of coaching. I think if a student athlete in any division is going to sacrifice academics or friendships or their career, I think the coach's job is to really make sure that it's worth their while, that they're getting back everything that they're sacrificing and more.
What is that experience like getting to coach both the men and the women's team?
Yeah, I don't know how that fit me. I mean, maybe I'm the youngest of 4, and my 2 older sisters, kind of ran me ragged. I guess I see the athletes as the athletes, and we've been fortunate enough here to have a really high level of female here. We've had a handful of Olympians. Maggie Shea currently right now is going for her 2nd games. Amanda Clark went to 2 games, 2 Olympic games, and Meg Gaillard. So, those 3 women, and so many other women, in between, Tracy Haley, Ari Largay. I mean, there's so many. We were lucky enough that it never was a question of female, male. Like, our women are competing at a high level in practice, and they can compete in either division. So, I think I just approach it like that. It's like, okay, you're an athlete, you're here at practice, this is what we're doing.
What is that experience like getting to compete against some of the teams that you face like tough?
Yeah, it's funny. We've all been doing this a long time, and I think that college sailing was emerging, 35 years ago, and all of a sudden, there were a handful of full-time coaches, there were a lot of part-time coaches, and then 30 years ago, all of a sudden, there's a lot of us that have been in this sport for a long time, and Adam Warblow down at St. Mary's College in Maryland, who's had a fantastic career. He was here at Con before I got here, so he really has helped us along the way. We do spring break training with him. This year we actually did a three-team trip with Harvard. So we all know each other. We all want the best. And the recruiting is interesting. Is that when somebody feels that they can't help somebody get in, or they're not a right fit, I think the coaches in general do a really good job at saying, you know what, it's not going to work out here, but point them in the way. One of our best sailors in the past 10-15 years, Atlantic Brugman, who helped us get second at the women's nationals in 2011. Her dad played hockey at Yale, and they were living in Spain. They came over here, and Zach Leonard, the coach at Yale, said, "Hey, I can't really help you, but you know what? Right up the street, my friend Jeff, he's got a great program." And they drove up the street. I met them, and Atlanta came here and really excelled here at Con.
What is that experience like, obviously getting to compete against those Ivy League schools like Harvard and Yale?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the one thing we try to do is try not to be anybody else. And as much as I kind of feel like, maybe those rosters are deeper, maybe those rosters are bigger, but at the end of the day, you can only sail so many people. And we do a really good job at taking kids that are really national junior level sailors, and then kids that are regional sailors. And it's, we sail more people here. We rotate more people in. We travel with slightly more, because we have to rely on the specialties. You know what I mean? If somebody's good in this condition, let's use them, rotate them out. And I think those bigger schools, their kids are not specialists. They're really good at the well-roundedness of sailing. So I think it's a total team effort here. And, when it's your time to go in, we need you to go in and do what you can do at the highest level. And, end of the day, I think we like to be able to take some wins off those teams.
Of course, for my listeners that don't know about sailing, how do you compete in sailing on the college level?
Yeah, there are two disciplines. It's called fleet racing, which we do a lot in the fall. The national championships in the spring, but that's basically like kind of like a big track race, or like a NASCAR type thing. You have 18 schools in two different divisions, and over the weekends you sail about 10 to 14 races in each division, and then you add up whoever has the lowest score. For every first you get 1 point, for every 18th you get 18 points. And that's a really good, that's kind of like what we do at the Olympics. And then the other one is called team racing, and it's 3-on-3. So it's your 3 boats against their 3 boats. And it's very much like 3-on-3 basketball. There's a lot of blocking and picking, and you're trying to get the lowest score over a small course. So, there's a women's national championship in that, and also a co-ed national championship. The selection show is tonight for those two, to see which teams go on to nationals. I think it's a toss-up. I'd like to think we're going to be one of the top 16 in that field, but Tufts, MIT, College of Charleston, BU, we'll say, I think of the Ivies and some of the bigger schools and some of the AQs. Unfortunately, I think some of us are going to be left at home.
Of course, what does a typical sail meet look like, and is it an all-day event?
Yeah, a typical event is a 1 to 2 day event. It's all day. You go and race. The races are anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. Coaches get time between races to talk for like 5 to 7 minutes. And then we take a break in the middle of the day to kind of reset, and then finish the day. And it is very much like a track meet, your event is now, or you're sailing now, but as the conditions come up, maybe we go with someone a little taller, maybe we go with, somebody that's a little better in the conditions. So yeah, it kind of looks like it just looks like a big track meet, basically.
Of course, with it being an all-day event, how do you keep the momentum of your athletes throughout the day?
Well, my energy, enthusiasm, but beyond that, we are that team that, we show up with, we're ready to go. I mean, we show up with a tent and chairs, and, we kind of show up and really, really try to make the other teams think we know what we're doing before we even leave, and, we have food at the event, we have drinks at the event, really keeping people hydrated. I think this last stretch run here in the spring, it's been really good having. A lot of times we don't get to travel with both coaches. Emily is with one part of the team, the women, and I'm with the co-ed team. So it's been nice. We've set it up so that we were together this weekend coaching the team racing team. We'll be together coaching the women's New England's this weekend at Brown. And then Connecticut College is hosting the co-ed New England's next weekend.
Of course, can you talk about the culture that you've built for the program?
Yeah, the culture is just really, you're a student athlete, and, really you need to fit into a model of academics over athletics in the NESCAC. And, we really ask you, as much as the sailors are really close and really know each other, and we really ask you to go out and expand our reach, make friends with people in your chemistry class, make friends on other teams. And it really just broadens what we're trying to do here. I mean, we really, Con has done a really good job at bringing us along, giving us the things we need, strength and conditioning coaches, more coaching, great travel budgets. But, I think the culture is more of hey, let's work hard. Each one of us has your back, and everybody's doing what's best for each other.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes going into sailing?
Yeah, so we have a really good, there's a really good score system, and there's a couple different levels. There's a really good high school sailing circuit where teams have, there's a lot of schools in New England, but there's a lot of schools in California that have high school sailing. But there's also a junior circuit in the summer, and you can track people's results. You can track who they say. Even if you didn't see somebody sail, you can track their results. I do think that, what everybody's looking for is different. As much as the Con and the Tufts and the Bowdoin teams are similar, just kind of the culture on each team is different. And I think when you're looking and, asking the right questions and coming and visiting and meeting the team is really important. But, it's pretty easy to track, who's doing what. And, beyond the starters at the top level of each of the teams, after that, the teams are very similar on who gets on the teams. And everybody's looking for, the top sailors, but also people that can do specialty things. You know what I mean? Like if they're tall, sailing heavier breeze, are you a laser sailor? Can you sail keel boats? Hey, are you a leader? I think the one thing we really work hard at here is finding kids that are team players. At the junior level, it's really them or the skipper and the crew against the rest of the world. And when you get to college, all of a sudden it's a team sport, and you might sit on the bench the whole weekend, but you've got to be the most enthusiastic person. So I think where we take advantage of that is we look for kids that have played other sports while they were sailing at a high level.
Of course, as a collegiate coach, what does that recruitment process look like, recruiting those kids out in the north and those kids out in the west, as sailing is that popular in those areas?
Yeah, Emily actually travels. There's a recruitment trip. She goes down to Florida in the winter. There's some really good junior sailing down there. She goes out to California to another event called the Orange Bowl. The Rose Bowl out on the West Coast. I run a camp and host some really big regattas over in Shelter Island. So we really get to kind of meet and see kids, while they're coming up. And then after that, we invite people to campus, and really have them the first time they come to campus, we really have them do the tour of the campus and really emphasize, like, if you're coming here, it's academics over athletics, and you're going to be able to compete and sail at a high level, but it's hard work. You're going to have, as a student athlete, you can do academics well, you can make some friends and do your sport, but you've got to be really organized, and you have to be a team player, and you have to be in it to support your teammates.
What does that official visit look like for those prospective student athletes seeing the selling program for the first time?
Yeah, the official visit, for us is, we get them here in the spring. We have a couple camel days that are going on right now, and the admissions department sets up a whole day of come and see a class, hear the transition. They meet with the coaches. They'll have lunch with one of the student athletes or a group of the student athletes. Once that process goes in the fall, usually middle of October, beginning of October. We don't really take anybody in September because we're still we're getting to know our freshmen. So then they come and, spend a night. If we're in their top group, we're happy to have them come and spend a night. And I kind of feel like if you come here and watch us practice and see the academics and see our facility, I feel like our visit really can push people over the top. So we really push hard. We don't, we only invite a certain amount. We don't do overnights for more than 6 or 8 people in a semester, just because it's just we're not bringing you here just to kind of hang out with college students. We're bringing you here because bring you on a Monday or Tuesday when the students have to go to practice and then study and get up the next day and go to strength and conditioning and really kind of look at the nuts and bolts of like, how am I going to be a college student and how am I going to be a college sailor? So really try to give them what it's really going to look like, not what it's going to look like on a Friday night in November when we're not in season.
Of course, as head coach, what is it like getting to see those players put on that selling uniform for the first time as a freshman and the last time as a senior?
Yeah, I joke around a lot around here, the seniors, we spend the whole fall, everything we do. It's like, oh, last time for the first practice, last time for your second practice. And I'm always joking, like, what, you leave here, have a nice life. Hopefully we see you someday. But the freshmen, and I think the one thing I like to instill, and we in the vans we've been talking about it and remembering back when they came to visit, and I tell them what I thought and what they thought about it, and we really do a good job at them remembering that, like the first time that you got the sale and the angst they felt, and really I kind of feel like when they become seniors, we really get to the point, seniors and juniors, where we're colleagues, right? Like I respect what they do every single day, and they respect the decisions I have to make. And yeah, they're tough. At times it's tough on both of us, but really, trying to treat it like a family and just make sure everybody gets what they want out of this program.
What is it like, obviously, getting to see those seniors go on to make the national team and go on to the Olympics to represent either Team USA or Canada?
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And as much as, they move on to some, the US team has some really good coaches, people that are just really good at the Olympic level. I think that, my forte here at Con is, the relationship between the sailors. I'm a fanatic about the weather, and I love analyzing the scores. So, when they move on to the Olympics or they move on to a national team, I'll get a call out of the blue because I'm watching the event and I'm diagnosing the scores. And, there were a couple of times where, Amanda Clark was, at an event in Europe, and the scores looked funny to me. And then all of a sudden the phone rang, and then I started giving her what I thought happened just by looking at the scores. And it was more just she or herself, or even when Charlie Modica and Hans were trying to make the US team, like just knowing that, they know that I'm watching the scores, so they can call me at any time of night and just be on the other end. So that's a lot of fun when they stay in contact.
What are some of your future plans for the selling program moving forward?
We just had this big upgrade. The college did a really good job, between the rowing team and the sailing team. We just did about a $3 million facelift down on the waterfront. And, it basically looks like Disneyland now, something that I kind of built over time with docks and, a little bit here, a little bit here, there. It's, I'd like to think our record really helped the school invest in the waterfront. And, for a small school that has 2 fleets of boats and, we're hosting the New England College Sailing Championship this year, in 2 weeks. I think moving forward, just, trying to get some more, high level kids in here that want to work hard and try to beat as many Ivy League teams as we can.
As a coach, what is that like? Obviously, as you said, having sailing and rowing in the same college.
Yeah, most of them have, rowing goes back such a far way, and most of the schools that, have sailing, have rowing. Ours was unique. We were on a postage stamp for a lot of years. And, Coach Ricky, who's been here for 40 years, who's retiring, really kind of set the waterfront up for, there's pictures of him like digging a trench to put a basin in, and Coach Ava Kovac, who's our SWA here at Con, who's been here now for 20 years. I think the property has doubled in size, just how they did it. And I think it's just a much better working space. College coaches have to be so focused because we only have so much time with the athletes. And, there were times over the last, 20 or 30 years, we just getting in each other's way, trying to stay out of each other's way, but also coaching our teams. So really the new facility is allowing us to really just take advantage of each other professionally, while not getting in each other's way.
What advice would you give those high school athletes that are looking to get into college sailing?
Yeah, be as honest as you can, and, realize that the relationship with, your college coach is one of the most, important things you'll do. I joke sometimes, when somebody can't do something in practice, that I'm going to call their junior coach and try to get them a rebate because I can't believe they don't know how to do something. But that is my job. My job is to push them. My job is to, not let them rest on what they were good at when they were 14 or 15, but, transform, young student athletes into somebody that's, really teaching me, what they do. And, the jobs are different. My job is pretty clear. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know how to support them. And, the skippers and crews, at times, like once they get really good, they should be able to teach others around them and even teach me of what I need to give them.
What advice would you give those college athletes entering their first year of collegiate sailing?
College sailing's funny is, it's a 2-season sport and it's a long season. We go from basically September 1st to November 1st, and then we have the winter off from competing. And then we go again, around February 15th, and the nationals are, finish up June 2nd. It's a grind, but coming into a team being ready is really important. Like a basketball player doesn't stop playing basketball or shooting free throws over the summer. And, sometimes sailors take, it's a grind, right? It's a cerebral sport. There are sometimes you have to step away to be able to absorb what you just learned, but being ready to go, even though you're a recruited athlete, you have to treat every day and every situation as a tryout. You're trying to make that van, you're trying to, elevate the team the best you can. And I would say, be ready to sail and compete on the first day.
What advice would you give those collegiate athletes looking to make the national team and go to the Olympics to represent Team USA or Canada?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to have that conversation in this office more than a handful of times. And we always get back to, what are you trying to do? Are you just doing it because you think you have downtime? And, you can do 3 things well at any point, and I think when you're in college, you're academically trying to, excel and trying to make friends and create a life for yourself, and you're trying to be a student athlete. Once you add the Olympic level and national team level to that, you no longer have time to do all to any of those successfully. And, in a lot of cases, it was more just helping that athlete plan out when they were going to take a leave, what made sense, for college, not just what made sense for me, because I remember, a couple of times there were athletes that ended up taking the spring off, and we could have really used them and qualified for nationals with them, but it made sense for them their whole life to take, a year or a half a year off to go to the Olympic trials or make a national team. So it's just a conversation of workload and, what are your goals?
What advice would you give those coaches looking to get into the sport of selling and coaching, whether it's being an assistant coach or even running a program like a head coach?
Yeah, there are plenty of jobs, but it is fitting into athletic departments, and, we hear this way too much, where it's like, well, we're different. We do it this way. And it's like, you know what? Here at Con, we've got 28 sports. We have an athletic director. We have a couple of assistant athletic directors. My job is to make it so that I can explain to them what we need and why we need it, but not take away from the soccer team and not make it so that every one of my requests is a special request. Really trying to fit in as a student athlete around campus, and also the athletic department. I think that's when you take these jobs, it's a job. It's not coaching a youth team, or you can do whatever you want, or a junior race team or a high school team. The college, being a college coach, successful college coach, like managing all these things and making sure that you're providing enough for the student athletes that, we're going to need more than just your coaching on the water. They're going to need counseling off the water. They're going to need friendship. They're going to need you to be able to connect them with alums to get jobs.
What advice would you give those head coaches looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Yeah, that's, I think that's the same answer, really trying to, work hard at your institution and get your institution 100% behind you. And I think, in the athletic department, as far as vans and hotels and meals, like I think Con's been that for a long time. And, now that we're building a lot of things here at Con. And I think one of the first major projects we've done, down here in athletics, happened to be the waterfront. And even though they were donors from those programs, if the athletic department or the school's not behind it, it's really hard to be successful.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the selling program at?
Repeat that question. I'm sorry, I missed it.
Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the program at?
Yeah, we're on Instagram. I've been here so long, so a lot of our athletes are still on Facebook. All the current team is just on Instagram, and then also college sailing, collegesailing.org has the live scores from every event around the country every single weekend. And we take pride in making sure that we post enough and try to get kids to come here and make it their place.
Thank you again, Coach Jeff Bresnaham, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Connecticut College as the head selling coach.
Well, thank you very much, and congrats, and good luck with you moving forward. It's been a great interview, and I'll make sure I pass on some other names, and my good friend Amanda Callahan up at Roger Williams, who's just crushing it in this in college sailing. I think she'd be probably one of your best interviews next.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Jeff, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.